I guess I realized how lucky I was then. So let's start from the beginning. I go to a casino to watch my best friend at the time. Her boyfriend was an MMA fighter. He had a game. Oh, sorry. I'm gay. I don't understand all the sports lingo. He had a match. Let's say he had a match, whatever you call it. A fight, that's what it is. So he goes to his fight, and of course she's like, hey, come with, you know. I had never been to one. I'm gay. Hot guy shirtless. Why not? So I get up there, and I'm pacing my drinking. We start in the hotel room. I valeted my car. I have, I'm studying at the time my drink was Belvedere or Grey Goose with Diet Coke. I know. I had a Ruth's Chris waitress give me shit about it, but it was technically called a skinny bitch at the time. So I'm pacing myself, and I had taken an Adderall, which I thought, oh, that'll just, keep me awake, good to go. I can drive the hour home after. But what you don't realize is it does nothing for the blood alcohol content in your system. So by the time I got there at 5, by the time the match was about 9. So it was over, wrapped up, about 10. And since he had won, they had a big celebration at the restaurant at the bottom of the casino. So they're like, stay, it's all on the promoter or whatever, it's free, get yourself something to eat. I hadn't eaten all day, and I'm like, no, I'm good. I had to get home because I was going drape shopping with my mom the next day. So I literally was, in my mind, and I passed the field sobriety test. We'll get to that. So it's in a part of the state where there is zero cell service. It doesn't matter if you got Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint. Well, I had T-Mobile, still do. And there was absolutely no service. So her mother was there, and her father and her uncle to watch as well. So as they're leaving, they see the roadblock, and they're like, we need to let Austin know because he's going to be leaving. So they weren't able to alert me in time. So by the time I get my car from valet, I'm driving over this bridge viaduct, and all of a sudden I see the roadblock, and I'm like, oh shit. But someone had told me that if they ask, have you been drinking? If you say no, you're lying. If you say yes, and they say never say 2 beers, say 3. It sounds honest. They might let you go. I don't know. I had heard it, so I thought that's what I'll say. Because at the match, I had finished my drink before we walked down, but her mother had bought me a beer. I'm not a big beer drinker, so I sipped it through the fight. So when I say yes, I have been drinking. I had 3 beers over a span of 5 hours, whatever. He was a younger state trooper, and he goes, I'm going to need you to pull off, and we're going to do a field sobriety test. And I was like, oh, shit. Okay. So I pull off. I get out of the car. I'm wearing khaki shorts, white crew neck tee, blue button down, and boat shoes. And I passed with flying colors the whole field sobriety test. The only little mess up was he had me do the heel to toe on, it was a rumble strip. So there were gravel, little rocks in it. So I rolled an ankle on one, but he was even like, yeah, this isn't the best place to do that, but you're sailing the test, you're doing good. I was like, okay, cool. And he goes, but now I need to administer a breathalyzer. Now in the state I live in, I don't know if it's every state, if you refuse and you end up getting charged and found guilty, you lose that license for a year. And so there's no way I could afford to lose a license for a year. So I'm like, okay, let's do this. I'll blow. It's 0.087. In my state, anything over 0.08, you're drunk driving. He's like, okay, that's low enough. I'm gonna let you blow again. And I can't remember how long. I mean, it happened so fast, how much time he let me go from the first to the second attempt. My second attempt was .085. He's like, okay, that's dropping. And the way he phrased it to me was like, okay, if you had had a beer in the last hour, then it's being metabolized quickly, whatever. I don't know the exact terminology. He was trying to tell me I was, deer in headlights, like, God, this can't be happening. So he lets me blow a third time. It's .082. And he's like, damn, it's falling quick. So, like, that's good, but, and he was probably my age, maybe even younger, a year older, but he goes, I'm going to have to place you under arrest. My supervisor's right behind me. So I was like, no. But the nice thing is he asked, do you mind if we search your car? Do we need to search your car? And I was like, no. And it was a disaster. I used to use the floorboard as a trash can because with my Jeep Wrangler, before the car I was driving, it had those all-weather floor mats, and that's what I do. So it looked like a disaster. And he was like, okay, we won't search it. And then he asked, do you want us to put your car in impound, or we can just leave it here? And I'm thinking, I'm an hour away from home. I don't know where impound is. This was before Uber. So I'm like, can we leave it here? And he's like, yeah. And then he goes, do you want the handcuffs in the front or the back? I mean, this is, if you think about anyone being arrested tonight, will fully acknowledge my white privilege. He was giving me absolutely so much leeway that I was just like, front, please. And then I asked once we were in the back of the cop car, can I use my BlackBerry? He goes, yeah. Use your BlackBerry with what signal? So no BBMs are going through, no phone calls, but we finally get to this station. And when I say station, it was literally a single wide trailer, not even a full length one, very small, like you'd see on a construction site with a unit-in cordless phone. So I was like, can I use that? And you do get your one phone call, but thankfully he let me use it to make as many as I could before I think I had to blow into the Big Mac Daddy breathalyzer, or the calibrated machine. So I remember I called my dad, and he was just, I knew this was going to happen. And you know what? You get to start paying your own car insurance. Granted, I'm 25. I probably already should have. So that was that. Then, luckily at the time, one of my best friends was an attorney. Not the one I was at the fight with. She lived in a different town. But she was a corporate litigator. I was like, shit, I gotta call somebody. And she's in that line of work. Maybe in school she learned something on what I should do. I couldn't call it at a better time. She was on the other line with another friend of ours who's a family law attorney. So she had a little bit more knowledge about what to do. She was like, listen to the cop, do everything they say. We don't know anybody up in the parts of the state you're at. Ain't no judges we can call and help you out here. And I'm like, okay, I'll just follow what you told me. And he took me from this little trailer to the actual police station, and I was in a cell. I was processed. They wouldn't let me keep both my shirts. They're like, you can keep one or the other. And I was like, I'll just keep the t-shirt. And they took the laces out of my boat shoes, and then I later found out suicide attempt. Oh, I don't know if we can say that on YouTube, but that kind of attempt with the laces or the shirt. And I'm like, okay, I guess this is where I'm going to be for a minute. I don't know how long. I've never been in this predicament. I've had friends get arrested for DUIs, but it was in my home city. So I'm in this very small town. There are 8 other men in the cell with me. Some are so messed up on drugs that they don't know where they're at. as a closeted gay man, I was not out at this moment though. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So they give you a yoga mat and a fleece blanket that's literally like, if you've ever flown with Delta and Comfort Plus, they give you those like thinnest fleece blankets, and it was one of those. So what did I do? I curled up in the fetal position and covered myself with that blanket on that yoga mat. I refused the meals because I didn't want to eat them. I'm very picky about food, and at this point, that's the last thing on my mind. So there were a couple other men. Can I have it? Absolutely. Have at it. And there was a payphone looking phone on the wall, and they gave you like a card. You got like 2 minutes to make another phone call while you're in there. The handle part had been ripped off, so if you're using it, it's on speakerphone, and it looked like someone had vomited on it too. So I made a quick phone call, I think to my mother at that point. And so I spent about, it was 15 hours I was there, because I remember it was about 11 or midnight when I was processed. And the next day, my alarm on my BlackBerry, I could hear it going off. They couldn't figure out how to turn it off, because when I got my stuff back in the little manila envelope, the silicone case was off, the back was off, the battery was out. And I was like, they had to do what they had to do. So I'm like, how am I getting, like, who's going to come get me? How does this work? Thankfully, my friend stayed at that hotel after the fight, or casino hotel, with her boyfriend, who was a little older. He was probably like 5 or 6 years older. So he kind of knew how this all goes. And they come and they say, Austin? I forget how they worded it, like, you're ready to leave, or someone's here to get you. However they said it. And I was like, A, who's it going to be? And B, how? So they give me my stuff. They discharge me. I don't know exact terminology in this situation. I hope never to be in this situation again, but I'm sober, so. But what I will say is, it was my friend who I had been with the night before, and her boyfriend, the MMA fighter. And for some reason, I had no record, but they still like had a bail for me. It was like $109, and they paid to bail me out. And she wanted to bring me a Diet Coke, but when she paid to bail me out or whatever, he's like, girl, no, it's gonna be about 2 hours before they finally like process it all to let him out. That ice will have melted. So that was sweet, because a Diet Coke and a pack of Marlboro Lights would have been the only thing I wanted getting out. So she picks me up and takes me back to where my car is, and it's still there. And I get in my car and drive home. I deal with everything I need to deal with. And at the time, I also had a friend in my life who was dating a criminal defense attorney. So I hit him up, and I'm like, what do I do? Can I hire you? I don't know if you're... He's like, I'm licensed in the state wherever, so I can represent you. But he was from a smaller town, so he had a good, thick country accent. We go to court twice. He kind of buddies up to whoever I guess it'd be the DA, whoever's prosecuting this. I'm not a lawyer. I'm probably using these terms wrong. But at the end of it all, at the second court appearance, he is chumming up with old DA, and then he comes and grabs me from like the, I guess they call it the bench. They look like pews. And he takes me to this room, and he's like, I got good news and I got bad news. I always say, give me the bad. He said, the bad news is you're getting a charge. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting a DUI. They're taking my license for 6 months. I've got the classes. I've got $5,000 in attorneys and court fees and all this, because I'm a worst case scenario person. And then he goes, I said, what's the good news? He says, they've dropped it to a PI. In my state, that stands for public intoxication. Like some drunk college kid outside of a bar being mouthy to a cop. It was a $25 fine. I got a driving under the influence charge dropped to a public intoxication charge. Paid my $25. And this guy was such an awesome attorney and just human being in general. Very nice guy. He actually lived in my apartment complex at the time. Never accepted payment from me to this day. I've lost touch with him, but if you're out there, you know who you are, and you did me the biggest solid of my entire life. But that is the story of how I guess I got out of a DUI. It didn't teach me a lesson on drinking. I wish it had. But that was at 25, and by the time I hit 30, I realized, yeah, we got a problem with alcohol. But I will say, the best decision I ever made was getting sober. So I hope to do a couple more story times. Maybe this will be the theme of the channel. I really like telling stories. You guys let me know what you think. I know I don't have a proper intro. I need to be starting this video. Subscribe, click the bell, all that stuff. I'll get better. I'm just finding this fun for right now. So see you guys. Have a great rest of your week, day, month, whatever it is. And I'll try to learn how to edit too. But I really appreciate the comments and the encouragement. I have like 7 subscribers right now, but thanks for watching.